Got it. Okay. So for anyone that's just joining us on this recording, this is the Changing the Narrative industry conversation about how we create more opportunities for low and moderate income, diverse borrowers in the home ownership space. And Suzanne, I just want to say, even though it didn't make it into the recording, your presentation was fantastic. I think the technical aspects of the challenges and opportunities that you face were really illuminating. And before we get into audience Q&A, I do have a question to you, very similar to what I asked Nadia, which is if you had a magic wand, with keeping within the theme of changing the narrative around home ownership and everything that you talked about, what would you be doing with your magic wand right now as it pertains to home ownership?
Oh, I think, the word uniformity and with regards to the underwriting right now, I think is really key for me. If I could wave a magic wand to make student loans go away, I'd definitely do that. But the other big piece is the unemployment aspect of it and having it evaluated based on, say, something along the line of Family Leave Act and something. We've just experienced an extraordinary event and we don't know what's going to be happening here in the future. It may continue for a little bit, it may not. We may have to just feel that this is the new normal for a while. But with that being said, folks' lives still continue and they have been able to make it through a lot of this. I've been amazed at the human spirit and what I have seen come out of this unemployment in so many of my buyers. And yet here I'm telling them, look, you know what? Your average income is only $1,000, not that $5,000 you're making. And that is a big, huge hindrance to me. If I had a magic wand, the uniformity of this is what I would say. I tap that right on there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think a big shout out for consistency, uniformity, and let's make this a more efficient engine for creating home ownership and wealth. So thank you for that, Susanna. I want to go ahead and open it up to audience questions, and I've seen a couple come through. So to both Nadia and Susanna, a question came through: should my lender be knowledgeable and provide me with all of my funding options? Is that something that reasonably we should be expecting from lenders?
I guess I can answer that to start with. Really, when you reach out to a lender and you're talking with them, I know when I look at a new loan, I'm looking at their financial profile and trying to come up with as many options as I can come up with. Look at how these pieces come together and how they don't come together and explain those differences. Yes, there's a lot of programs out there and I'm very knowledgeable about quite a few of them, but I don't know everything. I learn so much from the clientele that come to me and they bring me, hey, do you know about this program? Or do you know about this grant? I will research it and I will see, number one, can I access it? If I can't, I direct them to where they need to go. Or I try to get a hold of it and say, okay, this is how it fits and this is what happens. Not everything meshes together. So you're going to have a couple of programs that might butt heads, but then there are others that do come together. So when you're talking to your lender, make sure, number one, you understand what they're talking about and that they're explaining it consistently and clearly. And then also being able to make sure that if they don't know something, ask the questions. Ask the questions. You've got to ask the questions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and from our perspective, it is all about, that second pillar of education. So we want to make sure that the industry at large is educated. These are the programs that are available. I tell folks all the time, FHA is a great program, right? It took us out of the Great Depression, but it's not the best product for every person. So it really comes down to that educational piece. We do a lot of outreach with real estate professionals, but also with loan officers because we want to make sure that everyone is aware of the options that are there for them because every single individual and every single family has a different circumstance. And we know that home ownership is the pathway to wealth building ship. So it's important to be able to obtain a home, retain a home, and that education piece is the most important piece. And so to actually answer the question more directly, should the lenders be saying yes? And should you be expecting it as a professional? The answer to that is yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, a follow-up question, and these both came from a Ms. Evans. The follow-up question to that was, when should a buyer consider changing lenders due to non-performance? And we do want to kind of note that no one on this conversation will provide, technical, consulting services for a particular borrower, but from a very high level, speaking only as from your personal experience, do either of you have a perspective on when a borrower should say, my lender's not cutting it, they're not performing, and maybe I need to go find somebody else?
I'm sure Susanna can take that question.
Yeah, I just to piggyback too on the previous bit too, your finances are your profile and it's unique. So I get a lot of folks who come to me and say, well, my friend over here, they got a better rate doing this, but they're not going to know that person's credit profile. And if they closed 2 months ago, the rate's going to be different than today. So keep in mind too, that your financial profile has a lot to do with how a lender is structuring your loan and the direction that they're recommending, or the directions if there are multiple ones. When to change a lender if feeling not performance? Number one, are you not getting clear and concise answers? If someone picks up the phone and they say, yes, I've looked at your loan, we can't do it, your debt to income is too high, you need more money, click. Is that an acceptable answer to you? If it's not, change lenders. If you're feeling you're not getting the communication that you need, if you're not getting the directions and guidance, I don't have a problem for myself. If somebody needs to use a different lender after talking with me, I always let them know, hey, I'm here. I'm always here. If you have a question, if you have an issue, if you want me to relook at your loan, I'm always here. And I get it. If they've got a program I can't access, or they're a friend and they've been recommended, hey, it's no skin off our nose. We do this to make sure that we get people into homes, not to make sure that our pocketbook is full. Yes, that's a side effect, but it is not the main goal. The main goal is you, the homeowner, get into a home. Let's see if we can find the tools to do that. And if it takes some time, then that's what we need to do. But if you have a loan officer that's not giving you a direction and a game plan, then, and you need it, and you need that extra step, there's always Richmond Neighborhood Housing Services and any of the nonprofits out there that are out there for home ownership. They help. The lender should be able to help. And if you're not getting the guidance that you need, move on. You can fire that loan agent if you need to. That's the way it is. It's a business, and you are the CEO of your financial profile.
I like that, Suzanne. I like that. If you're a borrower and you're feeling like you're not being well served, don't be shy about making the best decision that's in your interest and in the interest of your family. Absolutely. So I'm not
But
seeing
I
any.
think
Oh,
to add to that, it is really, it goes back to the education and having the correct set of expectations, right? So when you have the proper education, and hats off to the nonprofit partners across the country, especially Richmond, right? But it's important to even understand that, because from an educational perspective, you need to understand your credit profile. Maybe your circumstances are because of your credit, or your debt to income, or your down payment. All those things are going to matter. So when you have a well prepared borrower, then you have a better experience altogether, because you understand a little bit more about the overall picture, but you understand a little bit more about your own personal profile. So I think that's a big piece as well.
got it. Thank you, Najin. It looks like we got another audience question from Pamela. What is the rationale behind using the middle FICO score for evaluation of lending?
Okay, so
Yeah, I
so
don't want to take that one. You can take that one, Nadja.
well, rationale, that's a strong word. So I can I can tell you that there are three separate individual credit bureaus, and every one of them is evaluating risk, and we're in the business of evaluating risk. So we are in partnership with Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, because they do a really good job of assigning a risk evaluation to each one of those credit profiles, so to say. So it, because all three of them are important, we just use the middle of the three because that's just what we're able to do so that we can zero in on the one, and there is again that uniformity. So we've been able to kind of agree to that middle score just so that there can be a uniformity across the country because really it is about evaluating risk. So with that evaluation of risk, there is a number assigned to it when it comes to an AUS decision, which is an automated underwriting system decision. We're evaluating the credit plus another 600 points of risk to really make sure that we understand the risk. So the risk is not only on score, it's not only on credit. We have uh, hundreds of evaluators to determine risk and then give you that LP accept.
Great, great.
Hope
Thank
that.
you for that one, Nadia. Yeah.
Mhm.
Susanna, saw you come off mute. Did you have anything to add to that one?
Oh, I was going to add to that too. When we're looking at it, it isn't, I know that the credit score is important. It really is. However, know that it's the whole picture. Again, Nadia started this with the whole picture of what lending is about and what homeownership is about, and what some of the effects of various aspects of knowledge and understanding and income and the COVID shutdown. All of that is just, it's a huge picture of everything. So it's your financial profile. And that's why when I talk to people, I'm talking to them about their financial profile, not just your credit score. Your credit score is not who you are. Your credit score may represent some things in the past. We've all been there. Everybody's been there. We've had an issue or two or 5 or 6 or 10. Every loan agent in this business has had something happen in their life. So understand that the score represents a numeric means of evaluating your financial, your credit history, but it does not represent you as a whole. Your employment does, your assets do, and your savings pattern and how you're paying your debts down all represent who you are as a financial profile.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just as a heads up to everybody in the audience, feel free to keep dropping your questions in the chat, or simply raise your hand if you'd like to come off mute or come onto video. We're happy to do that as well. I see another question pop up. So it's more, we should emphasize that outside of DPA, Freddie does a wonderful job for those with thin or no credit files. So I think that was another shout out to Freddie Mac. And not seeing any other questions. I do actually, I have a question of my own for you, Nadia. You shared with me some really interesting data yesterday around home buyers across the country. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was that there's a lot of diversity even within, a single community. And one of the things that really struck me as a former New Yorker was that the needs of Black home buyers in New York are actually somewhat different based on data in terms of the needs of Black home buyers in, say, a place like Texas. So I was wondering if you could just talk from a 1,000-foot level or 10,000-foot level about that.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot to be said about even the state of valuation. What does income look like? What does credit bureau look like? So, to our earlier point around credit bureaus, there's some credit bureaus that are more prevalent in different parts of the country. Our incomes are different in different parts of the country. How much our properties are worth also matters. And New York happens to be a high cost area. New York also happens to be an area where there's a lot of millennials because 90% of millennials are in by metropolitan cities. So there you've got a little bit of a challenge. But it goes down to that. It's the cost of living. It's the cost of how much it really is impeding. So there's a bigger gap when you go to places like that are high cost, and it's the same for Black Americans as it is for Hispanic Americans. Those coastal areas tend to be very expensive. So Texas is a lot more affordable, and there is where you find that differentiator.
Absolutely. And I think in your document, it was, if I'm remembering correctly, it was in New York, places like New York, and I imagine California, down payment assistance becomes one of the driving factors. Whereas in places like Texas, other lower cost states, it's probably more about access to capital, period, just because it is more affordable. So as long as you get access to that mortgage financing, then your down payment needs are probably a little easier.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to education because a lot of the surveys that we've done is that a lot of the down payments down payment programs that are out there. Some of the more popular ones we constantly hear, and be careful with your myths out there, because we consistently hear about those programs that run out of money. So sometimes we forget to ask, or we get discouraged and stop looking. And there are plenty of programs that end the year at a surplus because nobody came back to ask for it. It's one of those untapped resources. So I encourage you to continue to look for those resources and use that link that I provided in the presentation that tells you where to find some additional funds that are available. If we're trying to look, when we look at the data, we're trying to look for those opportunities and ways of bridging those gaps. So for those of you that are on this phone call today on or even on Facebook with us, use that resource because there's a lot of untapped resources, specifically in the down payment space, where we just nobody's even asking, nobody's applying, and they end the year with a surplus. And what do you think happens to the budget the year after? It goes down because the numbers suggest that they don't need the money. So then the programs contract, and that's not where we want to be either.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Susanna, going back to you, I think we've seen the audience had some really insightful technical questions. So I'm going to ask you a technical question.
Okay.
I think you threw a lot around a lot of terms like, debt to income ratio, your housing income. From your perspective, in terms of some of the ratios and quantifiable things that you're looking at when you do your underwriting for a family, what is maybe the most important ratio people should be thinking about, or the most important quantifiable aspect of their application that perhaps isn't as widely known as something as, say, like a FICO score?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there's several myths out there with regards to a few things. One is that you have to put down so much percentage. With down payment assistance, when I'm talking to folks, I'm often talking about cash to close, not necessarily down payment, because your cash to close may just really be part of your closing costs, because I've been able to find assistance for everything else. So it's the amount of financing that I can obtain. It can be over 100% of the sales price of the home. So that's one ratio. The other, with regards to down payment, is your debt to income ratio. Understand that I know you're probably paying more on your debts each month than what a credit report is going to pull. So we're going to look at the credit report. We're going to look at, is the credit report reporting $20 for this credit card, not the $100 you're paying a month? So those sorts of things you have to keep in mind. What we have on paper is the ultimate. We're looking at gross income, not what you bring home. So I get it. What I can put you in on a home loan and say, okay, you qualify, your mortgage payments can be $3,000 a month. Yeah. Even I choke at that. Okay, I know that that's not reality. So when we're talking debt to income ratio, and I say 45% is the maximum that we can go on a lot of programs, that's 45% of your gross income, not your net. And what I come up with, again, needs to be affordable to you. So we need to come up with a budget. What is the maximum mortgage payment you're really feeling comfortable with? And how do we get to that sales price that still keeps that mortgage payment down? So it becomes a puzzle, not just it becomes a ratio game and a puzzle. But understand the reality of it is what I can put on paper may not necessarily mean what you feel you can do up here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we're coming up on the hour, want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I think, not seeing any other audience questions, I have one closing question that is fairly high level for both of you. So, Nadja, I'll start with you. In speaking with you, I can tell and have really seen how passionate you are about your work. But, if you could share with us, what's something that you love the most about your work, and what really gets you up every morning to do the type of work that you do?
It really comes down, for me, it comes down to those great aha moments. So when somebody tells me, oh, well, because it's student loans, and I can say, well, hey, hold on, it's not about the student loans. Maybe let's talk about this. So it really comes down to those great aha moments about telling the
Mhm,
story with the data,
mhm,
because
mhm.
like we discussed earlier, we all have that one uncle that knows everything. So anytime that you can stop that pattern and say, wait, hold on, let's change the narrative. It goes back to those great aha moments. So that's what wakes me up in the morning. So I actually had a great I chuckled, I laughed, I smiled. I loved when I saw the title of today's um event. I'm like, yes, that's exactly right. So that's how I wake up every morning, just trying to change that narrative. So thank you again for the invite.
Absolutely. And you're going to be invited to my next barbecue, Naja, so you can talk to some of my uncles.
Great.
Um,
Thanks.
and, and Susanna, same question for you. What gets you up in the morning, and what brings you joy in your work?
Oh, goodness. I'll tell you, recently, and I know Nikki will eh, pinpoint this as well. I had a client that we closed on Tuesday, who I've been working with for quite some time. She came to me from the housing authority, so Section 8, and was just really, we've been looking, we tried to get her into below market units and throughout the counties and Bay Area, and just not able to get anything to stick. And she was really getting discouraged, hugely discouraged, but a really good profile, very good financial profile, just very low. And finally, I had a city reach out to me and they said, you know what? We have a borrower or a seller that's got to sell and they've got to do it now and they've got to close in 30 days. We got this buyer into contract on that home. She closed on Tuesday and she is the most grateful, most wonderful client I have had in a long time. And that's not to say that all my clients are not grateful. This one, just, she was talking about giving up her lease, grabbing a tent and going and living in a field somewhere so she can save money. And I was not going to let that happen. I just was not. That's what brings me to my desk every day, is to know I'm making a difference in someone's life to the point where I get a roof over her head instead of a tent, in this particular case. And that one just really takes my heart big time today. And sorry, it's choking.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what gets me up. It gets me up when I know someone gets into a home, they're going to build wealth, they're going to have a roof over their head, they've got a place to put their kids at night, they've got food on the table, and they're able to make it to another day. And that's absolutely the best.
Geez, Susanna, I don't know that you're the only person choking up with that story. So, thank you. I think we're all very grateful to have amazing folks like you and Naja in the industry and doing the work that you do. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Nikki to, I think, close us out for the day.
Thank you. And that story that Susanna shared actually became a Richmond neighborhood housing client and was at one of our first change in the narratives. She stopped me and said, I need to know everything I need to know about what to do to be a homeowner. And to Susanna's point, when she started, many might have been, hey, don't make enough money, credit not going to happen. And that's why we are very sensitive to the partners that we give access to our clients, because we need to know that they are just as passionate about getting them over the finish line as we are. And because of all of that work, we've gotten over 175 new homeowners in the Bay Area since 2017 and starting this change of the narrative conversation. And it really was, to Naja's point, when I came into this work in 2016, it became clearly evident that many people didn't know you didn't need a 700 credit score or 20% down to buy a home. And that really has been the mission of changing the narrative. So thank you, Susanna, for bringing it all to full circle. For those that are looking for some of the information that was not recorded, we will be providing Naja's presentation to those that attended. So the links and information you will have. And if there's any other information that you missed, please let us know. We'll get it back to you. I do see a number of people that have joined us today on multiple sessions, because for those that have been following our journey of information and conversation this week, Saturday ends our Changing the Narrative event, where we close out with our lender circle. So if you have potential borrowers, or you are a borrower yourself and you're still looking to understand the different community lending programs that are available, Saturday, starting at 11 a.m., we will have, I want to say, 5 of our partners talking explicitly about their community lending programs and down payment assistance. And the reason that you want to be there is because if you attended one of the sessions plus this one, and you show up Saturday, I like giving stuff away. So we are having those that have attended 3 of our sessions this week into a drawing to receive up to $1,000 to help pay off debt. Because we know credit and debt tends to be one of those barriers that many of our clients have a struggle with. We did it last year, $750. We're doing this year up to $1,000. So continue the journey with us. There is gifts at the end of this. So I want to thank the panel. I want to thank our awesome facilitator, and I want to thank you all for spending your lunchtime with us. You know where to find us if there's anything that you need in between. What was recorded in this session, as well as all of the other recordings, you can find at our YouTube channel. So please check those sessions out. And again, thank you for your time. And that ends the day. I see some things going on, so I don't see any other questions. So thank you all for your time this afternoon.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.